Hi Flosstube, I'm Sarah the CanAm Stitcher. Thank you and welcome for visiting and watching my channel and seeing what I've been up to. Today I'm going to have a longer than normal video because at the request of a viewer I videotaped the process that I go through when I dye fabric, and I only tried dyeing the first time 2 weeks ago. I was really happy with the results, and today I filmed dyeing fabric, and it was a different experiment because I've not filmed myself going through any kind of process before, and it was a little challenging because I don't have the equipment for doing that yet. So I was being creative and noticed that some of the shots didn't quite show the way I expected them to, but that's okay. So anyway, you'll see that. I will show you the entire process through it. I learned some things, definitely. One of the things I learned is that I'm going to need to try using the red RIT dye with warm water, because what happened, it seems, I think it's because I didn't use warm water with this, that it was grainy. And you'll see on the fabric that it actually dyed grainy. Not sure how I feel about it yet. It's kind of interesting, so you'll see. The other thing is I had a lot that I planned to talk about this week in the video. However, I'm going to have to save some of that for the next time, for the next video, since this one has already turned out to be longer than I normally have. But I do want to show that I finished a couple of projects. I finished the last 2 items that I had left from my Mania challenge with my sister. So here's one of them. Just zoom it in nice and close. I was super happy with it. I really loved it. I did change the B for Barb, because Barb Adams is the designer, and I put the S for my own initial in it. I'm really happy with it. And I used my Brenda Keys book to pick an S that I wanted to add. So there's that one, and then the other one I finished was this one. Of course, they're not fully finished, but they are finished. I changed this from 2020 to 2021 because I finished it in 2021. I am still trying to decide what I will do for a finish with these. I originally thought I was going to finish them as the pattern called for, which is one of them would be a round, small drum style pin cushion. The other one was a drum overall. I am reconsidering that. I'm thinking I might even make one of them into a decorative pillow. This one in particular, because I think it would lend itself to that. I think it would make a lovely decorative pillow. However, what I will want to do is look through my stash and check out the fabrics I have to see if there's something I could use with it. And who knows, maybe make a trip to the local quilt shops and see if I can find some fabrics that would work really well with those colors. We'll see. I have a couple of ideas. I even thought maybe putting them onto a bag, or I thought of framing them. We'll see. I'm still undecided, and that's not normal for me to change my mind after I'd already had an idea in my head from the very beginning of the project. I guess that's part of what happens as you start becoming more and more involved with CrossStitch, and I think that's probably what's happening with on my end. Anyway, I am going to give you a quick preview of the even weave 28 count fabric that I dyed 2 weeks ago, the larger piece that I dyed, and the project that I've been working with on it. And so let me just bend down for a moment. So here it is, and here's the project. It's called Bats and Booze. It's a stitch along with the Fat Quarter Shop, and that is the progress that I've made so far. Obviously, I haven't been doing it the weekly, accomplish each week's piece of the stitch along, but part of that is because life happens. And when I say life happens, that usually means that I have become very, very busy with work, or I've just become busy with just tending some things like around the house, or, you know, and actually, if I'm honest and think about it, tending to items around the house is usually due to the fact that I've been very busy with work. Don't get me wrong, I love my job, I enjoy my job, and one of the things I particularly enjoy right now is working with a new team that I had not worked with before, so that's a lot of fun. I do have some colleagues that I've worked with on other projects on this particular project, so it's nice to have some familiar faces as well as new people. Anyway, so that's where I'm at. Just doing another quick view. This is the fabric I had dyed. It's with the pearl gray. You can see the modeling effect that I achieved. I think it looks like it's coming across darker, probably because I'm behind it. It's actually a very nice subtle light gray. And you'll see that I will have a photo that I'm going to display at the end to compare the projects from 2 weeks ago to the ones that I did today. I am also showing you how things look when you have an oops, such as the graininess of the red. I did not want to hide anything. You see the entire process. The only thing you didn't see was when I took the fabrics upstairs, brought them up to my studio, and then dried them. Or, well, I shouldn't say dry them. They were mostly dry. I just ironed them. The last bit of drying was through the iron. So that's the only thing I didn't film, because that seemed to me like that would be a very boring thing for people to watch. It's already enough to watch me working through the dyeing process. I did make some additional purchases yesterday at my local needle workshop that I was planning on talking about. I was planning on talking about a new stitch along that I'm going to be doing with someone, a new friend that I made at the local at the LNS. But I think that'll have to wait, because I think this is plenty long enough at this point. And I just want to say thank you to everyone. I especially want to say thank you to XrossStitch. He said the nicest things in his most recent video, and nicest things about me. He called out my YouTube, and he made me cry, because it was very thoughtful, very kind, and I can feel myself tearing up already. For those that don't know me, I don't run around seeking public attention. Doing this YouTube video has been something very different for me. I do enjoy sharing knowledge with people. I enjoy sharing information, helping people learn from either my mistakes or something I've learned. It's one of the things that I enjoy with my job, when I get to teach people or share information with them and see them grow. I enjoy that a lot. Anyway, I can see that I'm all red and teary-eyed from his very kind words. Thank you again, Chris. That was very nice, and thank you. I don't have a lot of other to call out right now, not because I don't intend to, but because my video of the dyeing process was a little bit longer than I expected. Probably overall not too long, however, it just did take longer than I thought it would take. I do want to call out my local LNS, Stitcher's Garden, that's here in Albuquerque, and the owner, Lori. She is just so lovely and gracious and very encouraging, and has really helped me with this process since I started to venture back into cross stitch late last year. And I really appreciate everything she has done and how much she has helped me with this. And of course, my sister, the CanAm Stitcher. For those of you that have watched her video, you know that it's been a little rough lately with her job, so I don't know that she's going to have a video coming out this week or when her next one will be. So just be patient with her. She will get back to it at some point soon. I know that. She's a good sister. She's very supportive, and I love her. Anyways, here is my tutorial, for better or for worse, on how I dyed my fabric. Thank you. This is a overview of the majority of the products that I used when I did my first attempt last, 2 weeks ago, my previous video on dyeing some fabric. I dyed 28 count even weave, and today I'm going to try dyeing some linen, 28 count linen. I had last week used the pearl gray and a combination. I also used the denim blue, and I used the Color Stay dye fixative. I am hoping to try the lemon yellow today along with the scarlet. I'm thinking that what I will do is maybe combine them to make a color. I use these 2 small jars here that I picked up from the dollar store. I used some solo cups, and I have in here a knife and a couple of spoons that I used, that I just poured a little bit of the RIT dye into. I didn't measure. I'm hoping to change that today, so I picked up from Michael's today these plastic pipettes, which actually have measurements on them. So I'm going to take note of what or how much dye I used. I had a measuring cup, some paper towel, some dish detergent. I had some just cleaning rags that I used to dry the fabric in, and a couple of these aluminum foil trays that I used to pre-soak the fabric, and then also to do the bath in the Color Stay dye fixative. Here is the linen. I took a bigger piece and cut it into 4 because I would like to try and make 4 different sample colors, and I used, of course, some vinyl gloves. One of the things that I did last time that I will not do this time was the very first piece that I did is I used heated water, and then the second 2 that I did, the bigger piece that I did with the pearl gray along with the smaller piece that I used the denim blue with, I used cool water instead because I wanted to see the impact of not using warmer water versus cool water. From some of the videos and the research I had conducted online, the indication was that the hotter water or the warmer water will help absorb more of the color, and I was trying to go for a softer look. So these are the products, and I'm going to stop the video for a moment while I add some water to the tray and into the measuring cup. Okay, so I added 12 ounces of water to each of the solo cups. The water that I used was filtered water from my refrigerator, and the reason I did that is I live in New Mexico, which has very hard water, and I don't know if that would impact the dyeing process or not. It's just a step I've taken. And I took these little eyedroppers that have measurements up to 2 millimeters up here, and here's the 1 millimeter. So this bottom line here is half. I'm going to use those to try and help figure out how much dye I'm using as I walk through this next experiment. Since last time I was just going freehand with everything. There were no measurements taken. I just went and rolled the dice on every piece of the process. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to wring out the fabrics, and I am going to start mixing some dyes, and hopefully I've propped my iPad up on a box here on top of my stove so that hopefully we can capture everything as I'm going through the process. So take these. Bring those out. I'm going to grab a couple of gloves and put them on. I have put on a dark t-shirt. I didn't have any issues last time with spilling, but you know how it is. Oftentimes when you don't expect to get something onto your clothing, that's when you do. So, okay. Oops, that one hurt. That's okay. Okay, I will move this. I'm going to add just a little drop of dish soap into each of these. That was a recommendation, so I did that last time. Please note, this is not palm olive dish soap that's in here. I'm just reusing and recycling this. I bought a large container of dish soap last year, and that's the last of it. I do not recall what brand it was, so anyone has any questions on that, I'm sorry, I do not know which one. So I added that in, and what I would like to do is see if I can make a color that might be a little bit of a purple hue. I have no idea if this will work, so you're going to see this with me. This particular color I used last time, so I don't have the foil to take off. I do have the foil to remove from this red. They do indicate that you need to shake it up each time that you use any of these. So taking this off, put it in the garbage. I've got some paper towel here. And I picked up these because I thought it would be helpful, number one, to figure out how much I'm using, but also I wanted to try and limit any crossing of colors. I'm not going to say cross-contamination because I'm not worried about contaminating anything. So I'm going to use a little bit of red because I know red's a pretty strong color. So I don't know if you can see this. This is how much of the red I have. I'm putting it in. And I'm just inserting and taking away some of the red that got into here. I'm going to move this over, and I'm going to keep this close to it so I can reuse that. I'm going to take some blue. I'm going to add it. That over there. I'm going to use my handy dandy stirring knife. Very, very technical. I'm going to mix this. And then a trick that I learned after I did the first piece using the small pearl gray, or the small piece of fabric last time with the pearl gray, I hadn't even tested. I just went along and just moved forward. So what I'm going to do, I found out that if you take a piece of paper towel and dip it in, that can help show you what your color will be. And gosh, I guess that color looks more, I guess it's kind of a pretty purple. Maybe I'll add a little bit more blue. So I'm going to take my dropper, and I will add a little titch more of blue. Something something I just realized too. I only have 2 of these little glass jars, so I'm gonna have to do these in batches. Oh, and actually look at this. This color is actually kind of looking a little more, that's looking promising as it sat. So let me see what happened after I added. I'm going to dip this in. And, well, you know what? I have no idea. I'm just gonna try it. So what I will do now is I'm going to take one of these pieces of fabric, this piece, I am going to, while I'm thinking about it, I better put this lid on top so I don't have an accident. I'm going to move this out of the way. I'm going to grab this jar and let me see if this is working out the, oh, I think so. Okay, I'm going to take the piece of fabric. I just kind of loosely munch it together, push it in, and then start pouring my mixture over top. And this jar, I did fit that larger fabric from 2 weeks ago into one of these jars and used it. So I'm going to take my little handy dandy specialty tool here and I am going to just tap it down a little. Ooh, that should be an interesting color. We'll see. I am going to put this on for a moment, just for, or maybe I won't. There it is. And I'm going to let that sit in there for a couple of minutes while we move forward to the next color. So the next color I would like to try is, I would like to do another one with some of the rich gray, because that is a color that I have found will work well for another future project that is Halloween project. So let me put this in here. You saw that I had about up to the 1/2 millimeter line, so put that one in there. I'm going to, while that's in there, I'm just going to grab another one of these fabrics and I am going to put it into the jar. I am going to stir this. And it looks very light, but let's see. Yeah, it seems to be a very light gray. So let me put it in. If I decide that it needs more color, I will add the color. So I hope this is showing up. I'm pouring this over top. And I am going to take the same tool I used and just mix this in here. Put that into its container. I'm going to put a lid on this. Now, I did see that what some people do is they will move their jars with the lid on it. They'll gently move it up and down and just kind of cause a little bit of extra movement with the coloring. So, but I did that once and I just didn't know if it really made a big difference. So let me check this out. And oh my gosh, that is so pretty already. It's looking a lovely color. And what I do is I don't follow any timing for 30 minutes or 40 minutes or 10 and nothing. What I did was I just looked at the color to see how it was appearing, and from there I would take it and I would think, okay, how is this going to look once it dries, because I do know that they dry lighter. So that seems to be looking fairly good. I'm really happy with that color so far. I'm just going to leave that. I'm going to take this, I'm going to add some color fixative to this water in here. I don't use a lot. Doesn't seem to be a need for a lot. And I don't want this purple to be very dark, so what I'm going to do is I am now going to take it out, because take it out very carefully. I'm going to put it in here, and then I am going to, I sure hope this is all being caught okay. Take it and just rinse it a little bit. It's just supposed to help ensure that the color grabs. And what I like is that there doesn't seem to be a bunch of color coming out. Now, this is where I'm going to use tap water. I'm going to take this over to the sink and I'm going to run it through the tap water just to ensure that the color, any color that's going to rinse out, will come out. And I see there's a little hint of the purple in here, so I'm going to drain. And then all I've done, and this is exactly what I did last week, is I just took it out. I laid it flat on some cleaning rags, just in case anything was left over, and I pressed it out. I don't know if this is a great method or not, so my apologies to anyone that's feeling some trepidation about what I'm doing, or if you've done this before and have you know, a better approach. So all I did was I rolled it and just kind of squeezed it out, and it just really helped it to grab the water. And then later, after a few minutes, what I did was I just took it upstairs, or took it to my iron, which happens to be in my studio, which is upstairs, and then ironed it out. So here is how it looks currently. Well, actually, it's not such a great view because you can see through it, but it has some very subtle, nice modeling already, and I really like that. So I'm happy. I think the color will look lovely and will work really well for a Halloween project. So I'm going to move this one over, and I am done with that color. So this needs to be disposed of. Okay, so that one's ready to use again, and I'm going to just soak this up. So let me just take a peek at how this, I think I'm catching it. So what I'm going to do now is take a peek at see how this pearl gray looks. Ooh, that looks nice and light and subtle. So one moment while I just grabbing a little more water. Okay, so I have some water. Take some of the fixative. I'm going to just add a little splash. And I'm thinking I really like how this is looking, and am going to probably take it out already. And yes, that's true. It has not stayed in very, oh, you know what? No, I'm gonna let it stay longer because it's looking very, very light. And I am going to probably, I don't know if this is a big no-no or not, but I am going to grab the dropper and I'm going to add directly in here a little titch of color. And I just squirted it in, and it actually kind of modeled as it went in. And I am going to just gently tap it around. We shall see what happens with that. Just would like a little more gray, but with gray, and actually I'm sure with any of the colors, I'm just trying to ensure that the intensity of the color is what I'm looking for. And since this is something I'm not really experienced at, it's all very new for me. So what I would like to do next is I want to take the yellow and mix the yellow with some of the red and see if I could come up with a nice color for another Halloween project, because, you know, Halloween lends itself to using some fun colors. So give this a good shake, and I am going to take a dropper. Okay, so you can see how much I have of the yellow. I'm going to put that in. One of the things I did find, for anyone who's curious about this, when I was looking for eyedroppers to use for this process, I did notice that it was hard to find any that had an actual marking on them. And I found some really lovely glass droppers, but they were just strictly no markings on them, and I thought, okay, that just means counting how many drops I put in there. And as we all know, especially from back in the days of being in school, when you do that, one drop can be substantially bigger than another. So I'm going to be a little more gentle. I don't want to use a lot of red because I don't want to overpower it. So I'm going to take a little titch and see how that looks. Interesting because the red seems to, even though I've shaken it quite a bit, what I am noticing with the red each time is it seems to be a little bit grainy. So I'll mix it. Let's see how that looks. Take another paper towel. And I'm going to dip it in. I don't know why it does not look like it wants to show the color. Okay, let's try a deeper dip. Okay. I think I will add just a little titch more of the red. feel like I'm a mad scientist here experimenting, which is really fun. And for those who, well, of course, some of you know me and some of you don't, but this for me is fun. This lends itself to what I like to do when I'm working with certain things. So my family, they all think that I follow every single rule. And yes, there are some things in life where I'm very careful and follow the rules. But there are other things where I just like to break the rules. And I think that comes from my days in school when I took art classes. And I found that by breaking the rules, I could come up with something, oh, I like that, that's nice, that was lending itself to what I wanted. So there are some things in life I like to break the rules with, and others not at all. The other thing is, too, that a quilting group that I belong to, one of the rules with them is break all the rules. There are no rules. So being with a group like that helped encourage people to break the rules and just create, made a huge difference. I really, really enjoy being around people like that. So that's why if I'm breaking rules currently while I'm going through this process, it's part of the reason why. Number one, to me, this lends itself to breaking rules. And secondly, I don't know what all the rules are for doing this. So let me check out my gray. And gosh, it is really not grabbing hold of that color very well or much today. It's very light. I'm going to put a little more in again. And I do want a soft gray for my final result. However, I would prefer not to have to let it sit all day long while I go through this little experiment. And last time I just poured some of the dye onto the spoon and then just put it in and mixed it and let it sit, I think, I don't know, 10 or 15 minutes. So we shall see. Okay, I'm eager, of course, to check this one out. It hasn't been that long, as you can tell, but there is great promise on this color. So let me see how this looks. Okay. Wow, that looks pretty slick, but it's very light, and I know that they dry lighter, so that is going to sit for a bit longer. And just because I feel compelled, I am going to add a little more of the red. I'm going to move this, and before it settles too much in one spot, I am going to give it a couple of taps now while that's setting for a little bit longer, and I have another color I would like to work with once I have these done. And I'm not going to I'm not going to put the fabric straight into the solo cup because I just don't want to risk it rising up and spilling out over. So the 2 jars that I bought, I did pick up at a dollar store. They were $1 each. And the only reason I emphasize that is, as you may have in the area where you live, some of the dollar stores now, and the one I went to was the Dollar Tree, they now have items that are $3 and $5. So these 2 were $1. I had the solo cups. I did not need to spend any money on them. The 5 little droppers that I picked up today at Michael's, that was $1.99 for those. These aluminum dishes I had repurposed. They were from some prepared meals that I had purchased at Sam's Club, and I've just used them over and over again for other items, and then finally decided, hey, I'm going to use them for dyeing projects because they're really sturdy aluminum. And I'm really happy that they're seeing life and have seen life for more than one item. So the solo cups I had, of course, I already had these cleaning rags and paper towel and the dish soap. The RIT dye I purchased at Joann's, and when I purchased the RIT dyes as well as the color fixatives, or the color fixative, I purchased them. I believe they were on sale for 30% off when I purchased them, and that was 2 weeks ago. So there was that cost, and then of course the other cost is just strictly for the the vinyl gloves. I purchased these 1.5 years ago, so I have these. I use gloves for different types of cleaning, and one of the other things I do sometimes when I am cleaning or vacuuming, it's not that I need gloves for vacuuming or dusting, but I use it as an opportunity to apply moisturizer to my hands. I will put a lotion on my hands first and then into the gloves, and then I'll run about cleaning, and then when I take the gloves off, my hands feel really nice because it's had a nice hour to really absorb into my skin. So that's something else. And then for the fabric, this time I'm using the 28 count linen. Last time it was a 28 count even weave because I wanted to start with something that I thought was not too expensive. It was inexpensive even weave that I purchased. And the same thing with this 28 count linen. It's not an expensive linen by any means. I picked it up at I can't remember if it was Michael's or Joann's, but I did not want to use an expensive linen to experiment with doing any kind of dyeing, because to me that it just was not something I thought would be appropriate, or at least it wasn't for me. And I figure as long as I work through this process and start becoming more comfortable with it, then I can start venturing into more expensive fabrics. So let me check out this gray now, the Pro Gray. It is still very light, isn't it? Let me let it sit in there longer. And let me check the other one. I suspect this one won't need to stay too long. Let me clean this. Okay. Woo-wee. Okay. So interestingly, look at the little speckles. And I suspect these are because, as I mentioned, that red seems to be a bit grainy. So I'm going to put this into the fixative bath. Actually, that might be kind of fun, what it's doing. this over, I think it'll be into have a better view. So what it has done, this grainy type of red, I hope this is showing up. It's so that's what it's done to the fabric, which is, I don't know how I feel about it. I'll see how it dries. I may have to even consider taking this back to Joann's, the dye, and asking them if this is normal or just contacting Rit to find out, because I did shake it. Okay, so that has been rinsed out. We'll put this down onto this fabric and see how it looks. I was hoping it would have been more of an orange to it. We shall see. I'm not sure how I feel about that one at the moment. But maybe once it's dry, maybe it will look really fun. I don't know. We shall see. Okay. Okay. We shall see. Give it another squeeze. And then I'll place it over here to dry. So I'm not going to use the red this time, and I'm going to show, I hope this is showing up. You can see there's some of the model. I don't know if it just needs to be shaken even more. I'll try that and see. Otherwise, I will find out. Maybe I just have a bad batch. I don't know. So for the next one, I would like to use some of the yellow and the yellow with the blue to see if I can create maybe a greenish color. So take this. I'm going to, not too much. I just had a thought. I wonder what my art teachers would say if they saw this right now. I don't know if they would be encouraging or horrified. Let's see, and there's oh. Mix. Scrunch up my fabric, throw it into the jar, and then, oh, this looks like it might be a really good color for Halloween. Yeah, interestingly, the other colors aren't leaving globs of anything on the bottom of the solo cup. However, the red is. Okay, let's check out this gray. Gosh. And I know there's conversations about using salt or vinegar. I did read these do contain salt, so. Okay, that's looking a little better. Oh yeah. Okay, this is a really nice subtle gray, and I like that a lot. So another, and in case anybody wonders why I selected to choose using these cleaning rags, number one, they've been well cleaned because I put them through a vigorous cleaning process all the time. They are happily stained from lots of use throughout the years. However, I do know that nothing comes out onto the fabric because last time when my first attempt at doing this, I used the very same rags. So I just roll it, and the reason I like to do this, it just helps squeeze out any excess moisture. I do give them a pretty good squeeze when I'm running them through the water, and yes, I am happy with that color. That's gonna look really nice. Let's move this one. And then let's check and see. This could be a very intense color, so I don't want it to stay too long. Oh my goodness. Look at that. Okay, there we go. Oh, that is pretty slick. Listen to my vernacular. Oh my gosh. Anyway, I think I'm gonna let that one sit for a couple more minutes, just because I think I would like a little more intensity to it. So let's do that. And so let me show you my solo cups and what they look like inside, so that you can see. Now the next couple you're going to notice, these are the ones that I used with the red. So you can see that graininess that I was mentioning. I'm really wondering about that. So let me, while we wait for that for a moment, let me give this a shake and let me see. I'm going to put a little bit of this into, let me add a little water. Okay, so this is how it looks currently. Trying to see if it's getting that, maybe I just didn't shake it enough. Nope, it's still grainy. I can see the grains right at the bottom of the cup, so I'm gonna have to find out about that. That's too bad. I'm disappointed about that. So I'll have to, I don't know what to do about that, unless this has to be used with warm water. Maybe that's the difference. I think that is worthy of an experiment, trying it with warm water to see if maybe that makes all the difference in the world, since I'm not using warm water. So I'll just have to get some more fabric and try that out to see how it works. Well, let's check on this guy. I do know that the warmer water is supposed to help the color absorb. Okay, I'm gonna bring this one out. Put it into the bath. Let me give it a rinse. And I'm going to lay it out. That looks like a great color for Halloween. Yay! I'm excited. And I will in there. Okay. So I'm going to stop this now. I'm going to take these up and start giving them a press with a warm iron.